So you are determined to play some amazing disc golf next year, but you don't want to play the same courses again and again and again. Well, I have the solution for you. I have done a deep dive on what I believe to be the best courses out there, and I guarantee you it is not the same stereotypical picks as everyone else does. There's some unique courses out there that you need to play that you probably have never even heard about. Let's get into it and get you some amazing disc golf for next year. And this is probably one of the highest effort videos I've ever made, so if you could, be sure to subscribe and be sure to leave a like. I would really appreciate it. And one of these courses actually translates to high tax disc golf. So if you want to find out what that is all about, be sure to watch the entire video. And if any of your favorite courses didn't hit the list, be sure to comment down below. I would love to hear about what you think is the pinnacle of disc golf. And all I ask is that you don't say Emporia Country Club. I don't want to see it. And so really my top criteria here, was it well liked by players, had a high UDisc rating, did it have a high enough amount of ratings to have a fair assessment, because you might have a course that has like all 5 stars but there's only like 10 ratings. So it has to have a good amount of ratings, and it has to truly offer something unique that no other course does. Pretty easy to wipe away a lot of the courses on tour, because even if they are a great challenge, the uniqueness factor is rarely often seen. So with that said, I did have a couple of courses that were on tour, but that does not degrade from the amazingness of these courses. And also these courses are in no particular order, they are all just phenomenal courses. Alright, so first up we have North Cove, which does in fact actually have 3 courses, and they are all highly rated, with the Boulder course being 4.8 with 1,668 ratings. And with these insanely well-maintained fairways and greens, the amazing beauty of this course and the crazy elevation changes on every single hole truly provide an amazing variety of wooded with long fairways, making sure that you have to be very dialed in on every single shot shape. And even though the wind does play a massive factor here, if you can play it right, then you can throw some amazing bombers, probably get a new personal distance record, because some of these shots are just so incredibly high facing downward that you have a very unique throw that you'll probably never get unless you're playing at like a Colorado course or somewhere in like Montana. And I actually think even though this was on tour, this was kind of like the diamond in the rough, because it felt like such a breath of fresh air to see something so truly unique in disc golf, because year after year we just don't see that kind of thing. So to have it actually be featured on the Pro Tour was amazing. And it is actually also the home of the College Disc Golf National Championship, so if you have not watched that, be sure to check it out. And to play here, it ranges from $15 to $25 with a $10 fee if you want to get a golf cart. I definitely love to see this, and I think you'll definitely see a trend with these pay-to-play courses truly offering something amazing and unique. So going from the pretty well-known, let's go to something a little bit more obscure. Akeslund, Sweden, with a 4.7 and only 468 ratings, which is probably one of the fewest on this entire list. This is probably a course that you have not heard about too much, but being one of the highest rated courses in all of Europe, it is definitely not a course you should forget about, with the only major downside being that it is a seasonal course, so it is actually unavailable to play right now, but opens up in the spring. It is truly such an amazing course that actually feels like they didn't need to put too much into it, because the beauty of Sweden just kind of makes it such a good course on its own right. They didn't have to make anything crazy with OB lines. They just made a great course that has a couple of water features, a couple of island holes, but for the most part it is just sort of narrow wooded lines that, while they do test your distance and accuracy, it is more so just an amazing blend of nature. And to me it feels like Portland plus. You get all the good stuff about Portland, but just so much more, because it is such an open country and there's not like a million things trying to be built upon the same exact area. So even though there will be a Portland course featured later in this video, I think this is probably the better course, and this one review does a great job of featuring the high points. He says, "It is my highest rated track, 18 beautiful and well thought out holes with a varying length and degree of technical difficulty." And to me that is exactly what I'm looking for in a disc golf course. If it is 450-foot par 3s again and again and again, I don't want that. If it is super narrow wooded holes, I don't want that. I want a variety, and I want to know that every hole that I walk up to requires a different disc. It requires a different line of thought, and I also want to be like, wow, I'm truly out in nature right now, and I think this course offers so much of that and more. And really, when I was looking at the European courses, it was pretty tough to make any decisions. So many of these courses have those insanely cool tee pads where you just see a wall of trees to your right and left, and it just feels like you are really in like a totally different world. So I think this course offers all of that and more, and having one of those like 350-foot holes where you have to throw it dead straight in a line of trees is definitely something that I like to see, even if I probably could never hit that line. So for me, I just had to put this in the list, and I think it offers something amazing to your disc golf career. And even if you were probably thinking like, how in the world would I even get to this, it is actually only a 25-minute drive from the airport. And then next up, what I truly believe to be probably the best disc golf course ever created, Faylor Lake in Beaver Springs, Pennsylvania, with a 4.8 and already 1,327 ratings. Even though it is literally actively being worked on and trying to be improved upon, it is still one of the greatest disc golf courses already made. And I don't know if it's just like the Simon effect, but for whatever reason, this course just feels so incredibly awesome and epic, and every shot feels like I cannot believe I'm actually playing here. Like, this feels like a totally different world, and having some of the most insane distance lines. And even if you don't really want to play distance, I still would probably advise you to play the long pins. They actually have 7 different layouts, but just the scope and scale of these holes that have 1,000-foot distance, it truly is one of the courses that feels like you have to get it off your disc golf bucket list. And to me, I probably think it is number 1 in my list, just because of the insane challenges that it forces you to do. You have so many opportunities where if you don't trust your distance or don't trust like your forehand line, then you have to throw a totally different shot than if you were to throw it over the water or throw it on a super Anheuser line to try to get it a little bit more into play. Or there's some shots where you have to throw it 350 feet over the water. Like, there's just no other option. And at least for the long pins, being forced to make those difficult calls is truly something that you rarely see in other courses. I've probably played like maybe 100 courses total, and that is just not something I often see. So whenever I do get to see that on multiple holes for a single course, I think it has to be rewarded. And what's even better is that it is still being developed. There are so many things that might be improved upon in the next year. So even though the course is like this particular layout, and make it even better because there's some feedback and people are like, this doesn't really play well. Well, the changes can be made and improve upon it. So knowing that there is some variability to the actual pin position is really, really cool, and it makes for an awesome experience that I look forward to playing in real life. And going from one amazing scenery to the next, let's talk about Zephyr Cove in Glenbrook, Nevada, aka the Lake Tahoe course, with a 4.6, actually not that high rated for what an amazing course it truly is. It has 2,041 ratings, and to me, I was kind of just like blown away when this was actually featured on Jomez with Simon. It is hilarious how pretty much every one of these courses it feels like Simon has played, but that's not the point of this. All right, so the amazing part of this course is that you are literally on a mountain. So with that, you have so many crazy shot shapes. You have some holes where it's like 300 feet up. You have some holes where it's like 500 feet down. You have some holes where it's only like 320, 350 straight, but there's a huge dip. So if you don't throw the right power, then you're way short. Whereas other courses, you wouldn't really deal with that. And also with the crazy elevation, every shot feels a little bit weird, is a little bit wonky compared to other people that live at sea level. So having that super weird feeling to every shot shape is also really unique. And if you are not well conditioned, you will notice it, because this is like a 3-mile course, and with that high elevation, I definitely felt it. I've actually been playing this course for probably like 3 or 4 years now, and it being like one of my first Instagram posts. And I think it is just one of these courses that you have to play, even though it may not particularly be like the most amazing disc golf. Just seeing the nature, getting that unique challenge of the elevation, and literally overlooking probably the most amazing body of water that you can see from the US. Because I truly believe Lake Tahoe is one of those places that will never grow old no matter how many times you go. And unlike a lot of these courses, it is entirely free. It is a public park. And for the most part, even though I was playing during like the peak of COVID, I'd never really found it to be busy. Honestly, I was like the only one there. So I would love to see it gain more traction, because it is such an amazing course that has so much to offer, and it is just so rarely seen. And if possible, seeing this on tour would just be amazing, because I truly believe it offers something that no other course does. All right, next up, this feels like I just had to include it. I personally have never been, but I do think the hype is real. Blue Ribbon Pines in East Bethel, Minnesota, with a 4.8 and 6,500 ratings. This is probably the #1 rated course on all of UDisc, and I think because of that, I think it's just truly unfair to not put it on this list. With only charging $8 a day, I truly think the value is there, with a 27-hole course with 2 different layouts and a varying pin placement that adds variety every time you go. I think this is really just the pinnacle of woods disc golf. Every single hole feels like you are truly out in nature, and a very picturesque view that just makes you almost forget about disc golf. But with that said, the views are by no means the only good part about this course, because it offers some of those narrow tree line holes that I love to see, amazing night golf, and truly some of the best maintained greenery and course flow that you have ever seen. And it really makes you question, why does my home course look so much crappier than this? And really the only downside I could see here is that some of the holes do seem a bit repetitive. With it being a 27-hole layout, there is a lot of woods golf, and by the end of it, I think you will be very tired and probably want to take a nap after, because it is by no means an easy course. And with it also being in Minnesota, the chances of bad weather during the fall and winter are kind of likely, so you'll probably not be able to play that much during the colder months. But with my limited amount of Minnesota disc golf experience, I truly think that they care about disc golf way more than everyone else, and it definitely shows with this course. So while it is a bit of a cold take to say this is a phenomenal course that you need to see, I think it still needs to be included on this list for the insane amount of fun that you'll have playing here. All right, next up, by far the most controversial decision, I have to include it, Eagles Crossing in New Truxton, Missouri, with a 4.8, 1,269 ratings, and drumroll please, $37 a round, with a course that requires you to book a tee time. It offers a bunch of amenities. I think you can have a golf cart for like 10 bucks more. It is just the pinnacle of bougie disc golf. And while I do believe we want to differentiate ourselves from golf, and having $37 a round feels very much like golf, I think that is okay for this particular instance because it is just such a beautiful and amazing course with some of the most insane scenery you have ever seen, with some amazing fountains, some landscapes that feels like they're like from a bygone era of like Rome, some insanely high elevated baskets that really offer a totally different shot shape than anything you've probably tried to put on before. And if you are playing the pro layout, you will be facing some of the hardest challenges you have ever seen, because even the pros on the skins match had a terrible time trying to birdie these holes. So I think a plus 20 is probably a phenomenal score for most people. And if you get better than that, then you're probably lying. And I truly think that even though this does feel like a bit of a gimmick course, like it's so over the top and there's just so much going on here, I think that gimmick can be overlooked because of how good the disc golf still truly is. There are so few shots that feel repetitive, that feel like there's something that you get every other course. And while the OB lines are a bit aggressive, I do think this is something that you must experience as a disc golfer. In a similar vein as Zephyr Cove, this is just something that the disc golf world has created that it feels like you can't really be complete until you play it. And I think two other factors why this is definitely on the list is that they actually created a second course called Wild Times at Eagles Crossing, which is actually kind of like a totally different course on the same property. And apparently it is more of a woods and creek course that still has the amazing professionalism and great landscaping of the main course, but moved into like a wooded course only. And the reviews are already out. People are loving it. It already has a 4.7 with only 33 ratings. And while this may not have the same epicness as the main course, it is definitely something that you must play if you're already out there. You're already paying so much money, you might as well play this. And since you are already kind of out in the middle of nowhere, it is actually only an hour drive from Harmony Bends, which you probably know as one of like the highest rated disc golf courses. And even though Harmony Bends is not on my list, I still think it is a great course that if you're already out there, you might as well play. And then next up, a course that I kind of was shocked to see was so highly rated, but I loved it and I love to see that people also enjoy it. Pier Park in Portland, Oregon, with a 4.7 and 6,500 ratings. So to me, this is just the pinnacle of Portland disc golf. I felt so incredibly immersed in the nature, and I actually felt like a sense of calmness when I was playing this course because you get to see some of the most amazing nature right next to like a big city. It feels so bizarre. It feels like this shouldn't be real. It's only like a 20-minute drive from the airport, and to me, I actually felt like playing the course wasn't nearly as exciting as actually walking the course. These shot shapes honestly are not that difficult. The entire course as a whole is pretty short, not that challenging, but it really goes to show that disc golf isn't just about having like a miserable time playing long distance holes. You can have the most fun and enjoyment out of just playing an easy par 3 course. And that's not to say that you'll probably go under par. There's still a decent amount of bite to this course, and if you're not really thinking about it, you'll be missing a lot more birdie looks than you might guess because it offers so much sneaky elevation that you really don't notice because it's so rarely seen in other courses. And even though this is never really talked about when people talk about Portland disc golf, I truly believe it is such a good diamond in the rough and you must play it. And then next up, a course that you probably have already heard about and kind of are confused why it's on this list, but I thought I would still include it because it does offer something amazing, and that is the Regulator at Rock Creek in Burlington, North Carolina. They have 4.7 and only 531 ratings. Again, one of the lower rating courses on this entire list, and I think it's because it is still a pretty new course, and even though it has some tour fame, it hasn't really become fully appreciated yet. And with the amazing scenery and elevation, the mix of technical and open and wooded holes, it truly provides a good amount of variety, and I think this review did it really well, stating an excellent variety of shots to challenge your whole skill set. The elevation changes here make the course great, something rare for this part of North Carolina. And I think that is a great summation. When you watch North Carolina disc golf, you kind of expect it to look a certain way, but coming here, it feels like a totally different part of the US. And even though a majority of the reviews said this course is incredibly hard, it was almost too hard at times, I think that is part of the appeal and why I have it on this list. We just came from like an easy Portland course, but here the value, I truly believe the amazing challenges and some amazing scenery, but more so the actual disc golf itself. The scenery is great, but here it is really just trying to hit your lines and being really penalized when you hit trees right off the fairway and don't throw the gaps you're trying to shoot for. And I definitely think a lot of people didn't even really watch this course because it was only FPO, and they truly missed out on some of the best disc golf in North Carolina. And actually kind of hilarious, looking at the most recent review, it is actually from Haley King, who states, in my opinion, it's the best course in North Carolina, the best course I've played for FPO Elite Series, and she states that US Women's needs to be moving moved here permanently. And so from UDisc, it doesn't state that it's like closed at all, so you should be able to actually play this much more than any other pro level course. And along with that, they actually have 2 other courses within a half mile. So if you do get a little burned on this course, you can play something a little bit easier. But if you do want to play a course that really does force you to play every single shot shape, every single disc, this will be that course, and it will truly show you what you suck at. I think that's something critical to everybody's golf game. And then next up, going to a destination course, we have Thunderbird Gardens in Cedar City, Utah, with a 4.6 and 1184 ratings on UDisc. So much like Zephyr Grove and Lake Tahoe, this is definitely one of the courses where the disc golf may not be the actual like peak of why you're there, but it is such a cool change of pace to the normal disc golf that we got to play, with it primarily being a short, fun course that really does challenge your accuracy, because if you are off at all in these holes, then you'll be going way down because the elevation changes are so incredibly intense and you'll be feeling it on every single hole. And the primary reason I have it on this list is the views and surrounding terrain is just so jaw-dropping that it does feel like the peak of Utah at a disc golf course. I think there's so many courses that are adjacent to cool stuff, but like the course isn't that cool. This is a cool course with the extreme desert terrain and really does feel like a Moab course. It is a nice blend of very technical shots mixed with also very open shots, allowing you to still have fun even when you're getting destroyed. And I think this is one of those courses that after you play it, you're just like, wow, I probably don't want to do it again, but that was just such a cool experience. And then I'm actually not sure, but I assume similar to the Lake Tahoe course, the elevation changes will definitely affect people that are not acclimated properly. And really my research, the biggest negative pointed out was that it was pretty tough to navigate each hole, which makes sense because you are literally on like a mountain terrain, and how would you properly do it unless you have a bunch of signs? So whatever. And next up, we have the most stereotypical, but I just had to include it, number 10, Maple Hill, being the top course in Massachusetts with a 4.9 and 8,378 ratings. This is definitely like the number 1 rated course in all of UDisc. Everyone loves it, and I didn't want to include it. I didn't want to. It felt so like obvious, but the more that I thought about it, this is truly the peak of what disc golf is. Even if you don't care about the historical nature about this course, which is really cool, even if you don't care about the insanely cool Christmas trees, which I do because my family actually runs a Christmas tree farm, even if you don't care about that, it is a top-notch course. There are so many cool lines that you are forced to throw, and every single hole will kind of have you questioning your shot shaping, making sure you're fully confident in your shots. You will get destroyed. Unless you are a pro, you're going to get destroyed here, and I think that is kind of a fun aspect to this course. I know they have a bunch of different layouts, but if you are driving all the way to Maple Hill, I bet you're going to be playing the championship layout at least once in your life. So that's why I'm going to be including this on the list. And I think a big part about why this course is so cool is that every single hole is a challenge. There is no easiness to this, and being able to throw a shot and fully appreciate how hard it is when you actually get to throw it in real life compared to just watching it on Joe Mez or watching it on the Disc Golf Network, being able to actually see it in real life will make you fully appreciate how awesome this course is and why it is the number 1 and why there is people clamoring for any amount of Maple Hill coverage. And once again, I was questioning, am I loving it a little bit because like the Simon push? But no, I think it is a great course that stands on its own, and I think the work and effort put in by Steve Dodge and his team truly show that disc golf is a top-notch sport, and this is evidenced by that. And then next up, a course that I almost didn't think really fit the theme of this, but I do think it does. The more I think about it and the more that I play this course, I think it just has to be on this list. That is Black Hoof Disc Golf Course in Lenexa, Kansas. So Lenexa, Kansas is actually where I grew up. This is my home turf. So the fact that Eric McCabe designed this championship level course in my home turf was just kind of surreal, because I literally know people that are in the Parks and Rec department for Lenexa, and I'm sure that they had some part to do with this course, with a 4.6, which is a little bit low for what I believe to be like a 5-star course. And I actually have a video up of me playing this course before there was any baskets, any tee pads, and even then it was still a fun experience. And to me, the main appeal about this course is you have so many different options. There are 2 different tee pads, 3 different baskets nearly on every hole, so you can play any different layout. You can have a totally different experience every time you go. And even though I primarily play on the long basket with the long tee pad, it is still a different experience every time I go. You will get kind of destroyed because this requires maximum distance basically on every single hole. So if you can't throw it 350 to 400, then you will probably be playing for par a lot more often than you would like. But with it being such a fun wooded course, the wind really doesn't play too much of a factor. And with some of the most unique fairways, I think this course offers a lot of challenges that you don't often see anywhere else, because there is kind of the notion of like mini dog legs. So let's say you have an 800-foot hole, but it's like a mini dog leg right after like 400 feet. So you can't throw it like a bomber 500 feet because you will get deep in the trees. So you kind of have to focus on every single shot shape, and it makes you really think about your game, because if you are off just a little bit, then you'll be really struggling to get any kind of distance on this course. And I'm sure that was by design by Eric McCabe, because it really does make you have to trust every single line, and if you are off by just a little bit, then you'll be way deep in the trees. And even though this is primarily a wooded course, there are a good amount of holes where you can just let it rip and try to see how far you can throw with the wind giving you a little bit more distance. And while I don't think it ever will be like a pro tour course, I love the fact that it even exists, and it is definitely a must-see if you are ever in the area, because it is a course that you will not forget. There is one major downside that I probably think a lot of people don't even want to think about, but it is right next to a gun range, so you'll be hearing gunshots basically the entire time you're playing. So a lot of these courses, it's kind of like dead silent. You're in the middle of nature. This course, you're in nature, but you're going to be hearing a lot of distraction, which hopefully won't affect you too much. And then the last two are kind of courses that I almost didn't even really want to include because I felt like there just wasn't enough coverage to really judge them accurately. But I do believe that since these are so highly rated and they are on so many people's wish list in Europe, that they definitely must get some amount of traction. So first up, we have, I'm going to totally butcher this, Momda Disc Golf. I'm sure that's not how you pronounce it, but whatever. With a 4.6 and 1600 ratings, this is definitely a course that a lot of people probably know about if they're from Europe, but so few people from the US know. So with insanely unique holes, with those insanely narrow tree holes that force you to throw dead straight for 350 feet, but also blending that with wide open bomber holes, this is definitely the Scandinavian version of like a dream disc golf course. With a hard juxtaposition from these previous courses, the landscaping of these holes is pretty rough, but I think that adds to the overall appeal of it. This is just you out in nature with a couple of baskets. There isn't too much going on here other than amazing disc golf with some insanely cool scenery that you don't see anywhere else. And with a good mix of wooded holes and some holes where you're just throwing it way up in the air and hoping that you get close to the basket, it is definitely a fun time, and I really wish that I could play it in the near future, but since it is in Denmark, it is probably a tough one to get to. But I looked at the price because I wasn't quite sure if it was like an expensive course to play, and it's actually 10 Dutch kroner, which is only $1.50. So $1.50 to play this course. It is about a 45-minute drive from the airport, so while it probably is a tough one to fly to because Denmark's just not that easy to get to, it is definitely one that you want to play at if you are at all close to it. I think this review does a great job of demonstrating its value. He says this is Denmark's best track, obviously not a beginner course, but if you have played for a while, this is a must. And to me, this almost feels like that Pier Park, but just put on steroids. Every single shot just feels so much more raw and like you're in the middle of nature, and it actually kind of feels like an Alaskan course. And it still offers amazing disc golf while not sacrificing on amazing scenery. And then to end it, a course that I bet a lot of you guys have definitely not heard about, but you need to, and I will definitely be mispronouncing this, Uspastorp in Knoll, Sweden. A 4.6, 1146 ratings. You know the Swedes love their disc golf, and if this has one of the highest ratings in Sweden, then it is probably a must go to. This is one of those courses that just has amazing nature kind of built in. It has a nice blend of open and wooded holes. A lot of these holes are actually open and wooded on the same hole, so you get a unique experience in that right. And then some of the obstacles also present very interesting challenges that do feel a little gimmicky, but it's kind of like that USDGC where it's just kind of fun to do it anyways. And with so many of these holes, if you can just hit a straight narrow line, then you will do very well. This is one of these courses that will definitely challenge you, but if you can't throw a straight shot, then I guarantee you will get at least a couple of birdies. And it really does feel like they just took a little bite out of nature and didn't really try to mess with it too much, which is a nice change of pace because I feel like so many US courses, it feels like they are just tearing down stuff left and right. But here the course is kind of built into nature, which is so cool to see. So with that said, be sure to comment down your favorite courses. If you have any intention about seeing these courses next year, I would love to hear about it. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more content like this. Wild Runs, signing out. Peace.